Hello, everyone. Steve Ankerstar here. Thank you so much for listening in. Exciting topic today, and it's about home ownership. So, if you're listening to this because you're trying to buy your own home, so thanks for the folks that came out that are on the younger side that are trying to buy their own home someday, right? Or maybe you have children that are out there going to be entering, post college, post high school, entering into the what I call the real world, right? Or moving out of your basement, either one, right? Who are now looking at your kids maybe trying to buy a home, and these are some things that you can help mentor them on how to do just that. So we're going to go through some slides here, about 20 minutes total, get our things synced up. And here we go. The disclaimers on both screens there, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. You can pause this and read it if you would like, but basically the opinions expressed in this video are mine and mine alone. All right, let's talk about home ownership. The benefits are, well, first of all, you're out of your parents' house, right? So, or you're not paying rent, depending on whatever your life situation is there as far as your circumstance. But the benefits from an investing perspective, it does allow you to build equity over time. And that's valuable. When you think of pillars of wealth, you can kind of think of the 401k, you have a job, you can contribute to that. And then you have you're building wealth through the stock market. And then you have your real estate portfolio building wealth over time as well. Then you have your savings portfolio that is your emergency fund. So we'll be talking about all of those today. Potential for appreciation. The real estate market does go up and to the right, just like the stock market does. Not a straight line, right? No promises there that it's a straight line, but it does appreciate over time. Largely, it keeps pace with inflation. So when you think, okay, what's one of the major problems in facing people out there? Well, potential for inflation. We print a lot of money around here. So yeah, if you own an asset like a house, then it actually appreciates. Point of clarification, the house actually depreciates. The land the house is on appreciates, but it appreciates more than the house depreciates. So, and it's an expense you're going to pay anyway. Now, if you're at home, fantastic. Somebody else is paying that expense. But if you're renting, you're certainly paying, whether it's an apartment or a home, you're paying an expense on basically a monthly basis there. Or you go into home ownership and now you're paying yourself if you buy that. But we're going to talk about, the money goes back into you to build equity in the home. There is a mortgage interest tax deduction. If you're a first-time home buyer, you generally aren't going to get to the level where you're going to be able to claim that as a as a itemized deduction. You're probably going to do the standard deduction. If you don't know what those are, then you will find out soon. But you're not really buying a house for the tax purposes. Stability and control over your living space. So that's important, right? If you rent, you're at, whatever you lock your rent in for 3 years, 5 years, probably more 3 max, right? Or 6 months and then go month to month. Well, guess who has the power? Not you, right? The landlord has the power, and they can come in and either raise rent and make it more expensive, or straight displace you and say this is the end of your term. And then the last one is a neutralized shelter inflation, if you will. So it's going to be more and more expensive over time due to regular inflation. But if you own the home, you can lock into a traditional 30-year mortgage. And at this point, when you lock in, you agree to a house payment. And that house payment stays the same for 30 years versus having to deal with your landlord increasing that for you. Responsibilities out there, yes, you have to pay the mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, those all bake into the house payment for most people. You can do them separately if you want. But then there's ongoing maintenance costs, which are generally if you're looking at buying a home, you already probably have a car, and you know that the car is only part of it, right? You have to put gas in it and do maintenance and insurance. Maybe you pay for that yet, maybe you don't. But yeah, there's a lot more expenses there than just the owning the car. The house is the same way, and we'll talk about some of that. But I would say that bottom line there is important, because you don't want to buy a home without kind of committing to it, because it's going to change a lot of things for you. And we'll get to more of that here in a second. Okay, affordability rules. Now, there's some there's some math up here. And you're like, I was told there would be no math, but yet there is math. And even if you don't want to do the math, I can assure you your bank is doing the math when they go to give you the mortgage. So these are some things you need to think about. 2836, that's a lending guideline. So if you think of your income, your gross income, whatever you make on a monthly basis, you should spend no more than 28% of that on your house payment. And I've got numerical examples for you here in a second. If you have debt, credit card debt, car debt, or student loan debt are kind of the common ones to have at a young age, right? As you're trying to get out there and get on your feet, you kind of need some things, education, cars, that sort of thing. So you may have some debt. Well, note that your debt shouldn't be more than 36% of your total income. So the bank will look at it. If you've ever gone through the process, they will have you submit a personal financial statement, which when you see that, just go ahead and think that's going to be 5 hours of my life as I get all of this stuff together, even if your situation is pretty simple. So you will have to declare all this stuff, then you will have to send them statements and they will run these numbers for you. And they may tell you you're not going to qualify because you don't make enough and you're trying to spend too much on a home. So do it ahead of time so you don't have to have that uncomfortable situation, or just do it while you're thinking about it. And then that way you can put out you know your goal, right? That how much do I have to save towards the down payment to be able to earn the right? Like I say, you have to earn the right to invest. You have to earn the right to buy a home. So the 25% rule is super conservative. That just means 25 of net income. That's even conservative for me. But you will hear people talk about being house broke. So if you spend all your money on getting into the house, then you won't have money to enjoy life, right? Or fix the house when things break, because things do break. Okay. And then how much house? So think of your income. So think of that number right now on an annual basis. 3 to 5 times that is what that's kind of the target house environment. Now, having done house shopping, I've bought 4 homes and turned 2 of them into rentals. So I've got not the most worldly experience, but enough to know what I'm talking about. Is whatever house you fall in love with, it will be just outside above your range. Just works. Trust me. Trust me, you'll see it when I'm out there. So if you go, okay, I make 100,000, so I'm looking at houses from the 3 to 500,000 range. 100% chance you will fall in love with the $530,000 house. It's just how life works. Okay, let's get into some actual numbers here. Kind of small on the screen. Hopefully you can see them. I'm going to use the 10,000 a month example. Now that's pretty high, but also you guys are making a lot of more money than we did coming out of college, right? I got like 30,000 at my first job, and I was like fat on cash, right? I was like high roller. That math doesn't math anymore. So if you're coming out and you're making 120 grand, that's 10,000 a month. That keeps the math easy for me. So that net bottom line, 2 up from the bottom there, that means 2,800 should be your max house payment. Okay. If you have, you can have about 800 more in debt. So that's kind of like 1 car payment, and up for a total of that 3,600 a month. And that's kind of where you're capped. So when you see like, oh, the math ain't math, and that's when you have to earn more, which means usually wait, right? And earn the right to earn more through doing good at your work, or you have to lower the house that you have in your sights. Okay. Here's what that looks like on an income basis. I told you 3 to 5 times your annual income. So if you make 10,000 a month, again, now we're going top to bottom there, you can afford about a $350,000 house fairly easily, right? So that kind of helps you gauge where you should be looking at houses. If you go on the dream tour, you're going to fall in love with something that's out of your range. So set your sights accordingly, if you will. Okay. This is housing affordability. Now, this is more of an economic graph, and this is there are things we look at from an investing standpoint to talk about the health of the economy. And housing affordability is a real problem. So like I alluded to on the little teaser I sent out earlier today, if you saw that, is what I did when I was 22, 3, 4, 5. For me to save 10 to 15% of my money, and that would be enough to get me into a house by age 30, which is exactly when I bought my first place, was at age 30. Paid $100,000 for it. It was a townhome in Destin, Florida. It was gorgeous. Should still have it, but I sold it because that was a good idea at one point in time. So I was very diligent, right? That's why I'm here telling you guys. But even, it's fairly easy, right? It's like I could do it. It was achievable. If I was graduating now and I just do 10 to 15% of my income, I'm probably not going to be in a home by 30. So I have to increase the amount that I save to get there. And that's all based on this affordability. There's a lot to peel back here. I won't bore you with it. But if you look at coming out of 2007 and 2009, that's that big gray stripe approximately in the middle of the screen, affordability went up. Why? Housing market crashed. There were houses laying everywhere, right? People were actually walking away from their mortgages. If you remember that little peach, if you will, it was easier to declare bankruptcy and walk away from your home than it was to try to make the payments. Well, when the house prices go down significantly, then the affordability goes up. So fast forward to COVID, which is there's a small thin COVID line right there. The prices coming out of COVID, the housing prices shot up, and that made them far less affordable from there. And then interest rates started firing up after that. So when interest rates 2022 was that whole let's raise interest rates from 0 to 4.5%, which took your mortgage from 3% to 7%, problem, right? That tanked the affordability. So this is a relationship. We're right at the median of it's a medium income qualifying for the medium priced home. But it's harder now than it has been in recent history, is the point. So if you're a parent out there listening to this and you do want to teach your kids to go out and fly the coop and become productive members of society, we all hope for this, right? We try to put them in a position to where they can succeed. Don't get a little upset with them when they're not making it happen, because the math is different, is the problem. So think about for yourself of maybe saving a chunk of money, 50K, 100K, whatever it is, that depending on your child and situation, that you might be able to come in and help them with this, because it is going to be significantly more difficult than when we were kids. It's not just a USA problem. You see 4 graphs here. The bottom right is the US, and the RHP is real housing price versus real disposable income. So again, disposable income, what's left after you have to take care, live your life, right? That's the savings piece, the disposable piece that you can now put that towards a down payment. In the other ones, you see Canada, you see the UK and Australia. Yeah, housing prices have left the commoners behind, if you will, to be honest. So we here still have a fighting chance, but it's harder than it's really ever been. Is the point of bringing all that up. So you're like, hey, doom and gloom. Thanks, Steve. This is awesome. Let's get some let's get some positive stuff out here. Well, when you look at off to I told you that 3 to 5, right? That 3 to 5 times your income. Well, you have London and UK. Don't worry about those that are red and mostly red. Go off to the US on the far right-hand side of that screen. And then look at, the dark blue is that less than 3. The light blue is that 3 to 4. The tan, if you will, or beige is that 4 to 5, and then red's 5 and above. So you can kind of squeeze in there at that 3 to 4, 3 to 5 times your income. It's doable. It may not be the house that you want to post on TikTok because you're, flaunting your amazing lifestyle in your young 20s, which seems to be very popular, but it's going to be a roof over your head with enough room for you to live comfortably, and then possibly even house hack, which we will get to in a minute. So are you ready? First thing you can do to set yourself up for success is get out of debt. That's easy to say, harder to do, right? So if you have debt, you want to slay that dragon first. And I will tell you that once you slay it, you need to keep it dead, right? So it doesn't come back into your life. There are times when you want to use leverage, which is now mortgage debt is considered more leverage because you are leveraging into the home by putting 20% down. So it's considered good debt. Sure, are there people out there that would argue with me? That's okay. They're not here, so we're not going to argue. It's good debt, though. The business opportunity debt is kind of good debt. Car debt, student loans, and credit card debt, those are bad debt. So you want to kill those off. The formulas, like I said, there's room for them. So you don't have to wait to kill those off completely before you buy a house, but you need to have it under control and trending in the right direction for sure. And you will hear debt to income ratio all day long when you talk to a bank for your first time, which isn't as fun as you would think. Or even if you think it's really not very fun, it's even less fun than that when you go through this process. Emergency fund, 3 months worth of living expenses. If you're at home, some people may say 3 months of your salary. That's a lot of money for an emergency fund. So I tend to come up with the 3 months worth of living expenses. That's a technique. Some would say more. But if you're out there making the, 120,000, you probably should have 15,000 in the bank. Nice, kind of that 5%, if you will, of the total there, in case something happens, right? Because as soon as you go into the house, no matter if you buy a new build because you can afford to, or you buy an older home that may need some work, you're going to have some repairs that need to be done. And unexpected life events, those are the things that are by definition unexpected, so you don't know. Down payment. So you're going to try to aim that 20% for down payment. So think of your income or your projected income if you're about to enter the workforce. Have that number in your mind. And then 3 to 5 times that is the house range that you're looking at that. So that's one math. And then go 20% of that's going to be the down payment. So if you're looking at a $400,000 home, 20% of that is going to be 80,000. Then you go, oof, I have 2,000. So that you got some work to do, right? So then you go, okay, this is my savings rate at a certain point per year that's going to get me to that. Or you have an adult conversation with adults in your life saying, okay, here's where I am. Here's where I want to go. I'm projecting I would like to buy a house in maybe 3 to 4 years. So mom and dad, I'm thinking about if I can save 5, 6, 7,000 a year, and I'm able to do that and to show you that I have the financial discipline to do that, maybe we could have a discussion of you bringing in the remaining amount. So, as a parent, we're empty nesting, both kids in college right now, at least till Friday. And then we'll have Allie back living at home for a while. But yeah, not only do we want you out of the house, it's not like hanging out isn't cool anymore. But we want you to be successful adults on your own, that sort of thing, start a family if that's in the cards. All of this kind of puts you down that track. Good credit score. If you don't have credit cards, I encourage you to get them. Parents are like, oh, yeah, get a credit card, use credit responsibility. It's like fire. You have fire all over your house, not all over the house, but you have it in the house in several different places is probably a better way to say that. Like you cook with fire, right? So you just learn to use fire. Yeah, you have fire in your hot water heaters, right? So credit's kind of the same way. Credit cards are the same way. Learn to use them. Responsibility. If you pay a tax for being irresponsible, then that's supposed to help you learn, right? Like, dork that up, and then you come back and learn how to do it better. And then stable income and job security. So the difference there is you take your first job and they say, congrats, it's 120K a year. And, you have plenty of upside here. And we hope you find this amazing. And, if you meet your personal goals and you meet our goals, then you can work here for a long time. It'd be great. Or your boss is saying, we're hiring 10, we're firing 5 after 6 months. Okay. A lot of places do that. I used to want to work for Arthur Anderson, the old Accenture way back in the day, because they did. They took in 10 interns and they kept 2. And I said, yes, please. That's exactly the type of environment I like. However, that's not the time to buy a house when you're under the test case, if you will, for 6 months or something like that. So, or if you get into sales, a lot of money in sales, ton of money in sales, not a lot of steady cash flow in sales. So just realize that if you're getting a bonus or a sales commission check and it's not steady, the bank is not going to be all smiles about that sort of income stability, if you will. Okay. So that's kind of getting ready for the house. Then there's this term called house hacking. That to me is kind of a term from my day. So there's probably other terms out there that the younger generations use. I just don't know them. But this is where, whatever you buy the house and you get a roommate. Like you buy the house and they pay you rent. That's like the easiest, right? Or, you buy a quadplex or a duplex and you rent out the other side, or you have some form of a mother-in-law suite. So you're probably not going to have that right away, but in general, where you can have somebody else live on the property and pay you rent. The benefit of that is, of course, you're paying, that cuts down your payment for the house payment, right? I mean, that's like today's benefit. The secondary benefit over time is you're building a lot more equity using other people's money. Sounds good? Please do that. And then thirdly, you get a little bit more of the other side of the equation. Like right now, if you're looking to be a first-time home buyer, you don't have I'm the landlord and you're the rentor, experience, right? So whenever you have to talk to your landlord, you're probably dreading it. It's like you just don't even know what their side of the world looks like. This puts you in that, right? You buy it for yourself and then you rent out to other people, which are hopefully people and or trust. But whatever, you are going to learn from it, and that's going to cut your teeth as a professional, if you will, and prepare you for whatever's out there. And there are some tax advantages, which we'll go into later. Okay. House hacking strategies, the multifamily property, you buy a duplex, rent the other side. If you can afford it, after you do that, you kind of want to crawl, walk, run into real estate to get that experience. Build your portfolio as well as your confidence in being able to handle things, as well as smooth out the cash flow. But I say one of our advisors, Joel, was a master of this. I was his roommate. I was 22. He's 23. We're in Rapid City, South Dakota, and he's like, "Hey, come live with me." And I'm like, "Okay." Or I'm 22. What do I mean, literally don't care, right? I like this guy. I'll go live with him. So I moved in as his roommate, and then come to find out later, it was a quadplex. Well, he owned the whole thing. So not only did he live in one of them for free, right? But he's not paying rent. He's paying the mortgage. He had 3 other separate units, separate lock and keys. And then he still took a roommate on top of that. In the Air Force, which was my background, there was the common thing of buy a property wherever each move, which is again every 3 years or so, and then rent it out when you're done. Don't sell it. He did that, massive wealth. I did not do that. I like the stock market better, so got wealth differently. But that's certainly a strategy of buy a place that you can either rent out now or rent out in the future. There are some things that may get you excited from a security perspective, depending on how you view these things, but you could rent out a room, Airbnb a room. I don't know. Make your own decisions there. Or the accessory dwelling units are where you're renting out a basement or a garage or some other structure on your property. So there are options out there. So if you're looking at, okay, not only do I want to invest in a home to build my own wealth, I also want to do it from a business perspective and have other people pay my mortgage payment. Pretty good deal. However, look at this picture, this guy in this picture. People look at the markets and have that same look. They look at Bitcoin, have that same look. Well, you can look at your house and have that same look too, right? Of what the heck is going on. You buy the house and then the HVAC. If you don't know what HVAC stands for, you will learn being a homeowner. So yeah, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, right? The big units that should automatically work all the time with no maintenance. Don't work all the time with no maintenance, right? You want to do proactive maintenance if you can, which costs dollars. And then if you have to do reactive maintenance, which means you go in and fix something, that generally costs more dollars. So try to spend the smaller amount up front to avoid the big problems later. But it's inevitable, right? If you buy an older house, you are going to be paying for stuff that is depreciating, right? Because it's a depreciating asset. So the rule of thumb, 1 to 4% of your home's value. The example there, $500,000 home, probably not a starter home, but it could be depending where you live. $5,000 to $20,000 set aside for that home maintenance stuff. You're like, man, it's really tight around here. Now I got to drop $20K on an HVAC unit. Yep, that's part of it. so just don't forget that part. Okay, appreciation versus maintenance. So here's the gotcha, right? So you go, okay, Steve, I hear you. I know being a homeowner is the way to go. It's like, check. I'm going to save and invest to save that down payment. Check. Now, when I buy the house and I have to do all the maintenance, the house is going to appreciate. I'm like, yes, it will. Not a straight line, but yes, over time, up and to the right. You bet. You can count on that. And then you're like, well, these maintenance costs, I have some money set aside for that. It's like, yes. But the problem is, if the house you buy, say 500,000, because that's easy and we just talked about, appreciates in a year to 600,000, the maintenance costs are still kind of steady state, right? The problem is with that 600,000 is, yes, you are $100,000 richer. If you went 20% down, which was 100,000, you've actually doubled your money in that house. You can't touch it. That's the problem. So it's not like dollars that you can literally use to go now pay for things. You can do a HELOC. Yes, there's some options, but in general, the wealth you build in your house doesn't help you with cash flow. And cash flow is key when you're in a home, right? You need to be able to pay for everything. So yes, you're going to make money over time, but that doesn't help you right now. Now the math gets a little bit easier. It changes. I think it gets easier if you have 2 of you. So you get married and there's 2 people now working towards a common goal, whether it's double income or one big income and the other person's taking care of the home. So it does get a little easier if you add another person in there. Now, if you have a bunch of kids and you've got different math going on, so don't keep adding people thinking it's going to get easier, but certainly adding one is going to be a better. But yeah, it's going to appreciate, but it's going to be very costly while you do. So you could sit in that house for 30 years, start your family, have as many kids as you are blessed with having, and then off they go, and you've made a bunch of money, but that hasn't helped at all with cash flow during those 3 decades. It all is later on. So the bottom line there we put is it helps you in the form of utility, because having your own home does give you stability in your life. There, you are the landlord, so no landlord's going to knock on your door and give you the 30-day notice, right? Your parents aren't going to kick you. I mean, the parents can kick you out of the house, but if you own the home, parents aren't going to kick you out of your own house, right? So you have a lot more control. And if you want to raise a family in one location, that's the utility of it versus I'm going to buy a home so I can get rich. So it will appreciate and there will be money and you will recoup it on the back end. But certainly you won't feel it while you are the homeowner. Okay, to conclude, powerful financial tool for building wealth, no doubt. Careful planning and budgeting, you will learn a lot being a homeowner. Yeah, all those little things that you either just call the landlord or you don't even worry about because you don't really care. Like how to fix holes in walls and stuff, whatever your college experience was, if you went to college, now you're seeing it from the other side. You're like, oh, no, there's more to this. House hacking can accelerate you towards your financial goals if that's something you want to deal with. Again, that's more of a business decision, if you will, going through that. So if you loved what you heard today, then go ahead and reach out to somebody on the team. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Yes, I have one. So how should I prioritize saving for retirement and saving for a home?
Okay, so the question is, if you can hear it at home, is saving for retirement and saving for a house, how to prioritize that, right? So say you're coming out of school and entering the workforce, yes, you need to save for retirement, right? Because you get that benefit of every year for IRAs, 401ks through your work. Those windows have maximums and those windows close. So, once you don't contribute for 2025, you have until April 15th. But say you go through that and because you're saving all your money towards a home, then you don't ever get back and get that time that you've spent. But however, conversely, you say, okay, I'm going to max out. Steve said I need to take care of my retirement. I did say that, yes. But now you want to maximize your IRA and your 401k. And, at 23,500 for your 401k, that's about to go up, and 7,000 for that's $30,000. So even if you're making 100K, I mean, wow, that is a chunk of change. Obviously, if you max that out, you will never get to the home that you want. So it really depends on you. I would say the IRA is your most, the 401k, if your employer is giving you a match, do that, right? Because that's free money. So if it's a 3% match or a 6% match, absolutely do that first because that's free money, 100% return. Then I would try to set your IRA up on a monthly to not necessarily max it, but maybe put $100 a month in just so it's growing over time. And then the rest can go towards your house. If that house is your motivation. If you're uber cheap or you're like, nope, hey man, I'm going to be nice to my parents and I don't mind living here at all for a long, long time, then you don't save anything for the house and then you jam it all into your retirement. You will be very wealthy if you do that because generally the market returns versus real estate returns are quite a bit higher, which obviously parlayed over a young person's lifetime of 50, 60 years is a lot. So it really comes down to you and your goals. If you're ready to get out of the house or you're really sick of paying rent because it makes you mad every time you write the check or you see the deposit go, then you would lean more towards just taking the free money and, maybe putting a little seed money to an IRA and then the rest towards the house. If you're going for the most wealth over time, then I would prioritize getting a good chunk of change into the retirement accounts. There's some built-in discipline there because it does tie it up so you can't reach it. If you have a healthy relationship with your parents and they're in a situation where they may help you with the house anyway, that'd be a good conversation to have with them. And it's like, hey, I've got so much money here. I can save for a house, put in retirement accounts. I know both are important. So let's have an honest conversation about, do you guys see yourselves having a role in helping me buy a house? If they're looking at each other and they start breaking out laughing, then you know that answer. Or, you could kind of play it with other, if you're blessed to have somebody to have that conversation with. So, all right. Any other questions out there? All right. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you found it informative. Just reach out to any of the advisors here at Anchor Star Wealth if you'd like more information. And with that, I will let you go. Have a good one. Bye. Woo!